once again, here we do a Year of Mercy, a little study on mercy itself, and I hope you're benefiting from it. Again, not so much head knowledge, but really a change of heart. That we really become, as like the Holy Father Pope Francis asks us, people of mercy, because mercy is the great gift, the gift that we want to receive for ourselves, but first we must offer it to others. Well, I'm outdoors today here at the courthouse, and it just reminds me of a story read by Jack Kornfield, the one, The Chicken Soup of the Soul. Well, he shares a story that he had while riding a train heading from Washington, D.C. back to home to Philadelphia. He sat by this rather interesting fellow who worked with young people in jail or prison there in Washington, D.C. Anyway, he told Jack this story, and sort of a heartbreaking story. Young teen, 14 years old, was trying to join a gang, and part of the initiation rite was that he had to go out and shoot somebody. Anybody, anonymous, had to be anybody. So he did. He shot this kid, and not only did he shoot him, but he killed him. And so he appeared in court, and he was found guilty. And so, as before they were taking him off to prison and handcuffed, as the guard was leading him off, the mother of the slain son stood up and shouted at him, loud for the whole court to hear, "I am going to kill you." The boy was stunned, said nothing, and anyway, the guard took him off. Oh, about a year or so later, that same mother went to the prison, and she went to visit with him. Well, they called him out of his cell, and wasn't sure who was going to visit, who was his person, and they spots and realize who she is. He's visibly shaken, a little taken aback, not sure what to expect, and she just says, I got to talk to you. And anyway, so they have a little conversation, not much at all, sort of struggling to, make it flow. And anyway, after a few minutes, she decides to leave and asks, "Well, do you need anything? Cigarettes, money for snack?" And he answers not a word. He's sort of stunned by the whole incident, and anyway, she leaves him a little money. Well, her visits began to continue. After a few months, she went back again, and over the years, she began visiting him sort of on a regular basis. And they sort of strike up, oddly enough, a relationship. Now he's about 18 years old, and he's about to be released. And she asks him, what are you going to do with your life now? What are you going to do when you get out? And he says, I don't know. I don't have anything. I don't know anybody. She says, well, she goes, I have a friend who has a factory, and maybe he can hire you and work there at the factory. How's that sound? He said, well, that'd be great. And so she worked it out with his parole officer, and he got the job lined up at the factory. And then she asked him, well, where are you going to stay? Again, he said, I don't know where I'm going to stay. I don't have anybody. I don't know where I'm going to go. She says, well, listen, I have a spare room, which you can stay with me if you'd like. He says, well, yeah, sure. It'll be great. And so he lives in her house with her. Anyway, about 6 months pass, and they have this arrangement. He's working and living at her house, and after 6 months, she says, listen, we got to talk. We got to talk, and come into the living room. And so he sits down, and she says, do you remember the day in the court before they took you off, I said wanted to kill you? She says, yeah, ma'am. Says, I will never forget that day. She goes, well, I have. You're not the same person that you were. You see, I couldn't have someone living in this world who could actually kill somebody in cold blood. And so you changed. You're now different. And so I tried to help you. She said, I got you a job. I gave you a place to stay. And she said, I don't have anybody. And my son was the only one I was living with. I'm all alone. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind staying here with me. And she said, not only that, I was wondering if you would allow me to adopt you to be my son. He just looked. And he said, well, sure. And she did. she adopted him. You know, in this year of mercy, I think of that story. To me, it's profound. It is profound, isn't it? That someone not only would befriend her son's murderer, but she would adopt him as now her own son in her own family. You talk about mercy, you talk about forgiveness. And I'm sure, like me, how that story puts me to shame. So this year of mercy, I want to challenge us to reflect on those we hold a grievance against, those we hold a grudge, or those we hold back our affection, our care, interest, and somehow we just write them off. We sort of condemn them as dead. We want no part of them. And how often sometimes it's over petty things. You know, our pride gets wounded, and that's it. We shut them down. So I think of this woman who forgave and took in home this murderer of her son. If she can do that towards him, then certainly we can do that to others. Oh, I know. You can say, well, you don't know what they did to me. You're right, I don't know. But I do know what God says, what Jesus commands us, to forgive them, to show mercy. And again, I'm sure whatever that person did to you cannot equal someone killing your own child. You know, as pastor, I know I offend people, but sometimes I offend people for the simplest reasons. You know, I maybe didn't say hi or didn't greet them well enough, and that's it. I'm sure the same thing with you. People offended you, and we hold this grudge, or maybe people are rude to us, and maybe they are. But God says we're not to be merciful or kind to those who are nice to us, right? He said anyone can do that, right? He said even the pagans love those who love them. The challenge of being a Christian is to be kind and gracious to those who are not kind and gracious to us. And so that's why this year of mercy that we really got to challenge ourselves to be merciful to those who don't have mercy. You know, as I walk by and see people walk out of the courthouse, and sometimes I wonder what is their story, what is their case, and sometimes we see them, we quickly judge them, you know, not knowing their background, their environment, their family. You know, maybe you and I were in that same situation, we have done the same thing, if not worse. And that's what God asks us, you know, to see things with mercy, not to judge, not to condemn. As they say that phrase, right? There for the grace of God go I. And it's true. There for the grace of God go I. And so as you do this, I want you to just look at that and examine your conscience, you know. Who do I need to let go? Who do I need to show mercy? And as difficult as it may be, you think of this mother, right? Who forgave her son's killer. If that grievance is greater than that, then maybe I'll give you a pass. If not, we need to show mercy. Share another story. A fellow was traveling through Germany to visit his brother who was stationed there. And on the train, the conductor was quite friendly, and they had seemingly a great conversation, though he spoke no German and the conductor spoke no English. But they had this conversation using hand signals, and from the looks of it, it seemed to be quite well and went quite great. Quite enthusiastic. Anyway, the conductor left, and the woman traveling with him, the passenger, asked him and said, do you speak any German? He goes, not a word. And she nodded. She goes, well, that explains it. That explains why you didn't get off the train when he told you you were on the wrong train. And I think sometimes the way we travel, if we travel without forgiveness and mercy, we're going through life on the wrong train. It may seem that things are working out well. From appearances, may think things okay in order. Maybe you may be enthusiastic, but you're on the wrong train. You need to get off. You need to get off that train, to let go of the grievances, to let go of the hurt, let go of the revenge, the feelings of, hurt, and simply forgive. Forgive, especially in this year of mercy. Many of us may perhaps pray the divine mercy. And the mistake there with divine mercy to me sometimes is that it's a sort of one-way street. We want God to be merciful to us. And that's necessary, and of course God wants to be merciful, and we need God's mercy, of course. But it's more than just receiving. God expects us to be merciful to others in return. And so reflect on that as well. Receive mercy, give mercy. Get off the wrong train, get back on the right track, sharing God's love and forgiveness to others. Now I want you to enjoy your sharing time with your group, and this week, forgive, let go, even those in the past, wipe it clean. God bless you and see you next time.